Welcome back to the Runs Club podcast. This is a podcast where we talk running, fitness, mindset, and building stronger bodies through real conversations. Today, I'm joined by Jack Cullinan, who's the founder of the Small Town Project, a health and fitness community that brings group training to rural towns across Galway and soon to be nationwide. This episode is about much more than fitness because we talk about building a community, starting from zero, breaking the small town mentality, understanding the importance of connection, and how actually finding your why can completely change the direction of your life. Jack, having a podcast of his own, also decided to flip the conversation back on me. So this one gets a little bit deeper than expected. Let's get into it. So Jack, welcome to the Runs Club podcast, man. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Thanks so much for asking me on. This is the first one to debut, so you're getting an exclusive here.
Lucky me. This is the start of many. So
hopefully.
The topics I'd really love to dive into with you today is you have your own community that is flourishing yourself, and I've just kicked this off a couple of weeks ago, so I really want to get some good insight from yourself on kind of how to build a community and dive into your own community and how you've built it. So I suppose for everyone who's hearing me talk about community and not a clue about what the community is, could you tell us a little bit about the Small Town Project?
So first off, thanks a million for having me on again, and I'm looking forward to chatting about what I've built so far. And I suppose I've built a thing called the Small Town Project, which is essentially, it's a lot of things. I'm trying to actually figure out a definition as to what it is, but in a nutshell, it's a health and fitness community for rural Ireland. You have all these gyms and communities and things that are so accessible in cities and bigger towns, but there's nothing really for people who live out in the countryside and in rural areas and small towns, apart from if you're not part of the local GA club or not a regular pub goer, but still want to exercise and do a bit. There's not much there. So I have figured out a way to make health and fitness accessible for people who live in rural Ireland. So we have 6 towns across Galway now at the minute with about 125 active members, and hopefully growing shortly. We're adding more towns now. We're growing at a almost too fast a rate that I don't know if I can manage, but it's going. That's a good complaint. But we have. Yeah, we have 6 towns across Galway now and counting. So it's basically just a mobile gym for rural Ireland, and hopefully we'll have a pin dropped in every county in Ireland by the end of the year.
That's the goal. It's great to hear, and it's amazing to see that you're pushing into so many different areas and already having so many areas under your belt. And to be honest, you're kind of a one-man show, are you?
At the moment, I have people who help me out in there, but I have no staff. I have people who help out with different classes, and they're amazing. But we're hopefully going to bring in my first full-time staff now in the next couple of weeks.
My man is grinding. My God, some serious going.
Yeah. Thank you.
Where did the kind of spark for the idea first come from?
It happened by accident, complete accident. So I was always coaching. I was always, from as early as I can remember, I was always involved in teams. I started off in soccer camps, and I was trying to help out in those. I started coaching there, always coaching. Did strength and conditioning in college, and I went to America. I was working in a gym. I moved to Galway. I was working in one of the gyms in town, and I got the opportunity to go to New York for the summer, and that was grand. Went out there playing football, and I didn't want, you know, the way if you go out on like a J1 or whatever, you end up working in a bar or a construction site or some sort of thing that you just don't want to be doing. Yeah. So I was like, how can I figure out a way to not do this? I was staying with a family from Cavan, ironically. Irish everywhere you go. I was staying with a family from Cavan in New York, and I was just telling her I was a PT at home. I was asking her how could I set up classes or do PT or something gym related around here, but there was nothing where we were living. We were on the outskirts of Woodlawn. If anyone who's been to New York knows about Woodlawn, I was staying just outside there, so nothing really going on. So she said, "Oh, there's a high school running track down the road. I have a Facebook group chat full of Irish mammies in New York. We could try set up classes." 2 days later, I had 20 women running around the running track, running up steps, doing push-ups and wall sits, this, that, and the other. And that was kind of the start of it. And that was where it all began. That funded my whole trip to New York. And I got home. I was skint. I had no money whatsoever.
Standard.
I was like, yeah, exactly. And I suppose looking back on it now, I didn't realize at the time. At the time, I was just like, oh, I did it in New York. I could do it at home. But looking back on it, it became like the go-to spot for that group to see each other, to make friends, to socialize. And obviously, the health and fitness benefits came along with the time. But it was a case of, oh, I can't wait to go to class and see Deirdre. We don't usually get to chat unless we're going to the pub or there's a match on in Gaelic Park. This is a great chance to see each other throughout the week. Or, it became the social outlet for that group. That was what was really cool, because there's not a whole lot of that at home. So I came home. I had no money. I spent everything in New York. I was coaching a club in Roscommon, but back before I left, I rang them up. I was like, do you have any teams still in championship? Do you need any sessions? And like that, they were like, no. I said, you recently renovated your gym. Any chance we could set up a class there? They were like, that's a great idea. No one's using the gym. Let's run with that. So I got the classes set up there. That was on, I'd say, a Tuesday and a Thursday evening. I had a Monday, Wednesday, Friday evening. I went over across to Ballygar. Then someone else messaged me from another town, and it just kind of grew and snowballed from there. And here we are now.
Fantastic, isn't it? Isn't it so funny how something could just be the spark to continue something else, something that just completely wasn't on the cards. And as you said, bringing all the Irish mammies to track. I'd say the Irish mammies love you. So
listen, they still do.
Absolutely. Flourishing.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I want to circle back to there that you said, just about it being the kind of weekly meetup for that group. I know health and fitness is the core focus when people sign up to these things, but does it almost become a byproduct of, say, the connection and the friendships that grow in it?
Yeah, like even where I'm at now, some people come to get fit, to get strong, but some people couldn't give a flying fuck about the lifting weights or that. They just come to have a chat. Like I'm shouting at them every night. If you listen to me for 2 seconds, you can chat in a second, but it's just a social outlet. It's just to come down, get out of the house and have a bit of crack, you know. And that's what it started off as, like a health and fitness thing, but now it's a community place. Health and fitness is a byproduct. That's what people want. People want to be part of something where they can have fun, feel seen, feel heard, meet their friends, and they don't have to end up hungover the next day.
without the penance that comes from the other type of socialising. Absolutely. Yeah. One thing that kind of just reminds me of is, I know when you start off football, when you're young playing under 8s, you're just going down to see your mates and you're kind of running around playing tag or whatever, and you're supposed to be playing with the ball, but it nearly has that kind of a vibe to it. You know, like, come on, please listen to me for a second. We need to get some training done here.
Yeah.
You're paying me for training.
Yeah. Oh, stop. But yeah, like that's most of them parents might be coaches of different teams within the town, and they're always shouting at their kids, and then they come to my class, and then they're the ones
do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, so
no, it's fantastic, because I've seen the videos that you share online of the covers that you do, and it just looks fun. It looks like people really get involved and really have a good time while getting fit. Like, so it's an amazing thing that you've kicked off. What was the moment for you where you kind of thought, I'm kind of onto something here?
I suppose it was when I started getting feedback of what it actually did for people. Because at the start, like a full transparency, I was just doing it as like kind of a side, like an extra to my job. You know, it was just saying, oh, I could do these classes. These are cool. It's basically an extra income source. And then I started getting the feedback of, I was asking, what do you think of the classes? They were like, it's so important to me. Like, I don't know what I'd do without them. And it was like, outside of the health and fitness side, as I said, but the mental health benefits that it gave to them, the confidence it gives them, seeing themselves getting fitter and fitter, and then having that outlet to kind of just vent, to be themselves, so they're not putting on a mask or being the parent hat on, or the whatever their job is on. They could just go and have a bit of crack. And the more and more feedback I got, I was like, Jesus, this is actually really cool. I actually would want to have that impact more on people, because you see with our own parents, they work so hard and you want to be able to provide an outlet for them, and you just see the impact that it can have, and you want to have it at a bigger scale. So that's when I started getting all that feedback, I was like, right, let's see how big we can make this.
Yeah, amazing. Like having that outlet to go and meet your friends, because obviously everyone's so busy. A lot of your community will have young kids, and that's probably taking up all their time. But having somewhere to go that is maybe their hour and a half every evening, or whatever time of the week it is, that they're going, improving their self-image and also getting that connection of friendship that's probably missing from how busy their lives have been. So it's a beautiful thing to give people. I just want to kind of dive into your community a little bit. Can you share with us some possible success stories that you've noticed in clients and classes and maybe groups themselves over the years?
Yeah, there's been a few standout ones, and again, I could list off a lot, but there's a few. The biggest, I suppose, success from everything we've done is it's gave a lot of people their first big health and fitness success. You know, people that might have never played sport before or would have never trained actively. People who have come, they would have played football, and they use the classes as like a getting back into fitness. But a lot of people would have never done anything like that before. I've gone from someone who might be carrying that little bit of extra weight or not like what they see in the mirror, to go and running their first 5K, running their first 8K or 10K, or like we did Dublin High Rocks last year. That was huge. Seeing people believe that they can do it. We have a lady that I recently did the Brussels High Rocks with, Breed. Her story is absolutely amazing, from where she started to where she's at now. Like she'll say it herself, like she's lost, I think, 5.5 stone in the journey. A little bit of that was before come to our classes, but I think there's 2 or 3 of that has gone in the time she's been with us. She did her first 5K with us. She did her first Tie Rocks with us, and she's going on. She's completely changed her life around. She's signed up to all these different 5K series. She's playing mothers and others football. She's little things like that. It's not about the weight loss for me. It's not about the biggest transformation, who can lose the most weight. It's who can have the biggest. I want someone to look at someone who trains with us and be like, the way they carry themselves, their confidence, their view on the world is, they're a whole different person. That's what I want from what we're trying to do. It's not about, oh my God, she's lost so much weight. That's only a byproduct of it. It's the person that they're becoming. It's way more than the weight loss. So there's just a couple, like there's a load I can give, but it's the people that the members are becoming, not just a weight loss or a number target, you know?
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. And that's the vibe we're looking for here. You know, like success looks different for all of us because we all have different backgrounds and we're coming from different ways. But it really sounds like you're building like an ecosystem that breeds success. Because when you see one person has done it who you can recognize with and see maybe a mirror of yourself in and maybe their actions or what they were at previously, to see them then go lose the weight, do a high rocks, run a 5K, you're thinking, this is achievable. It's a brilliant thing to be kicking off, and you're putting people up there so that other people can come with. So it's
exactly, yeah.
Fantastic.
It's people come in, you present them with a thing of, this is all the stuff you could achieve. They reply like, what are you talking about? I would never be able to do that. And for me to just be like, watch, just watch, and then just laying the road out for them. And then they get to the end of that road and be like, wow, they can look back, what's going on? How did I get from there to here? That's all I want. I don't care about metrics or numbers or a before and after photo. It's just seeing the person who walks in the door versus the person who is hopefully still in the door, but looks is a completely different person, you know?
Yeah, completely. And I suppose it really speaks to the wider impact of being part of the community, is seeing someone else achieving it and thinking, oh, just a little motivation to kind of get you started. For you, building the community, how has it been in your own life? Like, how much do you feel that it has kind of changed you personally and how you approach things?
Huge. And building this has changed my mentality a lot because it gives me a purpose. It gives me a mission. It gives me something to jump out of bed for and say, right, how can I make this better? How can I improve more people's lives? How can I have a bigger impact? Like when I was working in the gyms, it was great, but it became kind of Groundhog Day. I love teaching class. I love doing all that. But working in the gym, it was kind of just got monotonous because there was no substance behind it. You just show up, teach your class, get paid, go home. You know, and when I started doing this and I started getting the feedback of what it's doing for people, that gives you a spark, being like, wow, I'm having that impact on this amount of people. How much more of an impact can I have on other people and within the community, and building that up? So the biggest thing for me, it's given me such a strong purpose and mission to get up and get after it every single day. And that's the main thing.
Yeah, purpose and mission. You couldn't ask for two better things to be able to make a statement from your own business, like something that is a passion project for you and also having such a positive impact in other people's lives. As you said, mission and purpose, like what more could you want from something? We all get stuck in that kind of Groundhog Day a little bit when I suppose we're finding our feet in our career. Is kind of how we're going to break the mold and see where we can make it us, as opposed to just following the someone else's blueprint. I see in a lot of your class, I'm sure there's a lot of people who come in and they're probably starting from absolute zero. And for us in the Runs Club, we have a lot of people who are just maybe post-surgery. They haven't trained in a long time. They're probably fearful of the new body that they have kind of post-surgery. For someone who's starting from zero, what advice would you give them?
Starting from zero. If you're starting from zero, I would just try to get someone to start from the complete minimum. You know, if you're coming in and saying, right, I'm going to completely change who I am. I'm going to do 10 runs a week and I'm going to do all this, you're wasting your time. So like, are you asking someone starting from zero in any realm, or are you asking someone who was start walking? Just get walking. Start with one habit that you can consistently do 2, 3, 4 times a week and build off that. If you want to start training and you're starting from complete zero, set 3 days, 2 days, whatever it is, because again, we're all busy. Whatever amount of time you can commit, go for a walk. See if you can stick to going for a walk 2, 3 times a week for 4 or 5 weeks. If you can stick to that, start picking up the speed on those walks. Add it to a little jog, walk, and just slowly stack those wins. Go from a jog to a run. Then, okay, right, I'm running now consistently. This is great. How can I improve this running now with my food? Can I reduce my sugar? What can I take away? What bad habits can I stop instead of what can I add? You know, figure out, like a lot of people get to a point and they want to start something, but they feel like they need to add stuff into their day to day. But realistically, stop and realize, what can I take away? What bad habits what's stopping me from actually getting to where I want to go, instead of what can I add in? Because when you start adding things on, you just get overwhelmed, and then that's when you quit. Figure out what's the bare minimum you can stick to, how can you build that over time, and then what bad habits can I take away first. Once you have that foundation built, then you can start adding things onto it. And you feel, once you have that bit of consistency, get that little bit of help from whether it be one of our communities, a coach that you look up to, a friend of yours that is a little bit further ahead than you. What's the bare minimum you can keep adding on that you can sustain over a long period of time? That's where a lot of people from our classes, that's why they stay so long. They start from zero. We'll give them the lightest weight that I feel will still challenge them. And then we just slowly build up over time. And you have to give them that little bit of a push to like, right, try the weight, do it, give it a go, give it a rattle. And if you can't do it, you can always try it again. So the first step is going in the door. Second step is getting that little bit of a nudge to kind of push you right into the room. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, brilliant. It's just baby steps, following a blueprint and having patience as well while you're doing it. But also by getting the right person to guide you in it. Because, there's an awful lot of stuff online and different things like that. But when in one-to-one kind of person kind of setting, they can give you real advice tailored to you. So no, it's fantastic advice. One more thing
on that is having the open-mindedness that you can achieve more. That's one of the most important things. If you are going into it with the mentality that you're probably going to fail anyway, you might as well not start at all. Having the open-mindedness that you can improve, and you're going into it being, let's see what happens. Let's see what I can do. And that's where progression is going to really flourish, instead of being like, I'm going to start this now, I probably will fail. You're wasting your time. That's one of the most important things, is having the open-mindedness to try new things and expose yourself to potential failure.
Completely, because I know having that kind of limitation in the mind is very easy to occur when you haven't been training in a long time. But as you kind of touched on earlier with the community you have proof of the people that probably come in with that mindset have completely changed who they are. So when someone comes in the door, they're probably feeling a little bit limited. You could say to someone, look, they felt like you did, and now look at where they are. So it completely changed the narrative in the minds. And it's a great thing about community and having people there to guide each other and kind of keep motivating each other. One thing that we kind of mentioned there a few seconds ago was keeping it enjoyable for people. And like, I've been in your classes, they're torture, but they're very, very enjoyable. How do you kind of make sure that you keep it enjoyable so people stick to it?
For me anyway, it's actually caring about the people, caring about everyone in the room. Like if I can at all, like you'll see in about, I try to get around the room to everybody, ask how the day is going, how the week has been, how's work going. Again, so for some, they might have just finished a rough day at work. You'll get told to fuck off more times than not, but try and just to enter their world, giving them the option to give me the middle finger or give me the thumbs up, whatever it is, but actually taking interest in people's lives is really important for me, because people spend so much of their day giving parts of themselves to other people, whether it be to kids or the job or whatever other things they might be involved in, and they might not get that same level of interest in their own lives back. I try to notice the small things, new shoes, if someone got their hair done, their eyebrows done. I'll try to just take little bits of details that you can improve someone's day with. Or if I know someone likes a certain type of music, I'll try to put that on into a class. In one of the areas, like you might notice that on Sunday, there's a little bit of Justin Bieber thrown in there. Yeah. In one of the classes in Carfin, there's a group of Spanish people that come in. I'll try to play a little bit of reggaeton and throw it in there. Just taking interest in little things, fine details that they feel seen. Trying to make people feel seen, because you can have the best class and the best coaching and stuff like that, but it's little fine details that make people feel important. And that's what I want to make sure everyone feels important, feels seen, that everyone is being met where they're currently at, because that could be the one part of their day that they were looking forward to all day or all week. And I want to make sure that everyone gets a little bit of something, That's why I try to make it as enjoyable as possible. To the best. The little
1% that makes such a difference, because as you kind of touched on there, the older we kind of get, the less interest people have in us. When you're a kid, everyone's really interested in it. They want to hear what you're doing. And then maybe as you get older, in some kind of senses, it's like you get more attention from maybe grandkids or whatever it is. But there's that kind of middle ground where you're the giver, you're the one that's protecting, providing, whatever it is. But to know that you can come to a class and, as you said, feel seen, you feel really part of it, and get that need met that you might not be getting anywhere else is a fantastic thing to do. And you really look deep into it. You analyze what needs to be done, find the 1% and see how we can make this better. So fair play to you. You also share everything so openly online, and even just in the podcast, coming in and saying how you do things is fantastic. Because I love to be able to see the behind the curtain. We all see what the end product is, and it's very easy to show on social media how fantastic things are. But you're very honest about building the things that go wrong and the things that go well. What kind of made you want to start sharing that journey online?
I don't know. I actually don't know. It's more, part of it's for myself. Other part of it is, you want to be able to show the behind the scenes of it. Builds that bit of trust. It's not just everything's perfect. You're seeing so much online now of, the people who are in Dubai and Marbella who have done the thing, or who was perceived to have done the thing. Whereas I like to be able to show the building of it. Like again, I have young siblings there who I want to show kind of what I'm doing as well. You know, of family who live abroad and stuff like that, who you kind of want to show, right, this is what I'm at. I'm not just a bum who's I'm not doing anything. But no, it's more so the documentation. I was chatting to, I'm not going to name drop here now, but I happened to have a conversation with Rob Lipstead.
Ooh,
Last year. I know, right? He was like, document, don't create. I was asking him, like, how can I improve my content side of things? So just document everything, put the highs to lows and just put it up. He was trying to push me towards YouTube. I'm hesitant on that just yet, but maybe soon. But he was just like, document, don't create. And in fairness, it's made the content side of things so much easier, because a while back I hated social media because I was always thinking, what am I going to record? What's next? Fuck, I have to make another video now. Whereas now it's like, all right, I'm just documenting days in the lives, I'm documenting classes, you know, I'm bringing people in to record the classes and just see if I can capture little moments and stuff. And it's been really helpful because it takes that decision away from what am I going to post today. So it's more, to answer it in short, for me so I can look back on and have something to see my little wins and where I was at certain time periods. Then it's for other people because, you know, I'm a young lad from small town is trying to build something and might try and inspire someone else to do something similar.
Yeah, completely. And I love the name of your podcast, Small Town Mentality, because it's kind of like a double entendre or an innuendo or whatever you want to call it.
Big
Yeah,
time.
I can't think of the right.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. I just want to dive into the kind of the naming of it, because we all understand the small town mentality from the smaller rural communities of Ireland that can sound like a mind virus at times. But I love the way you've kind of turned it on its head by what you talk about in your podcast. It's mindset. It's what I'm building. It's like, look what you can achieve once you set your mind to it, essentially. What kind of made you want to dive into documenting it then on the podcast type of stuff?
The small town mentality is something that I've talked about for a long time since moving to Galway, and even I chat about it with my friends a lot, especially in different circles within small towns or rural towns, like in football scenes, like anyone who tries to do something slightly different gets that crabs in the bucket mentality, that's tall poppy syndrome. There's so many different names you could put on it, but you can't be different. If you're not in this one circle, it's all the way through school, even in college, everywhere. If you try to do something different, you're weird. I don't know what it was that it just annoyed me, because I look back and people I went to school with, anyone who was considered slightly different are now doing something really cool. Anyone who was who had that mentality of who would have slagged people for being weird are all still in the exact same place, hanging around the exact same people in the exact same pubs every single weekend. Yes. So it is a virus. Small town mentality, you know, you're giving out about everything, you're complaining about everything, but nothing changes. So I suppose I'm glad that I got to break away from that relatively early, and still watching it happen, I just find funny. I just find it funny to see how people think and how the minds don't evolve as they get older. And I suppose just documenting my journey of trying to change the small town mentality within small towns. It was more just a funny thing I came up with on the spot.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah. Because I know you say about like coming across as weird, and like I suppose we don't ever be ourselves for the fear of coming across as weird, but when you can break that attachment to kind of wanting to fit into the circle, you flourish and you become your own person. And one thing I saw online recently was that embarrassment is an underexplored emotion, that everything you want is on the other side of embarrassment, and essentially the other side of being seen as weird, you know. So absolutely, yeah, exactly. You gotta be cringy. The cringy is the only way forward.
It's the only thing that gets attention now at this stage.
Yeah, exactly. I even was it you had a guy on your podcast, Owen McGinn, yeah, and I started seeing some of his content after. Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck.
He is the king. Since I met him in an old mentorship. He is the GOAT. His progression in breaking that small town mentality and just trying to, it's been insane. And he's like, what you see is what you get with Owen. He's an absolute legend. He's the absolute GOAT.
So it's so fantastic to like, I love having a podcast because I get to come on and speak to people like yourself and hear the information in your mind. Like even they said, document, don't create. I have that written down here, being like, oh, that absolutely just sticks in the mind. So when you build a community and you draw people who are like-minded into it, you get to learn from each other and see how everyone is doing things. But one thing that I kind of want to, and maybe on the opposite side of it, is what's possibly the worst fitness advice that you've seen out there or received yourself?
There's there's a lot. See, with fitness advice now, it's so subjective what could be the best advice for one person could be the worst advice for another person. So it's hard to find one pinpoint worst piece of advice because it's so broad, you know. There was all the worst fitness advice I would have ever heard is from the old school YouTube videos I used to watch when I was like I was like 13, of like, oh, what's your man's name, Six Pack Shortcuts, and all these boys that I would get sponsored by like a supplement company to start pushing this fucking weird piece of advice. I think there was one guy I used to watch on YouTube, and he made a whole video about how to make salads taste nicer. And it was like putting like coconut oil and shit on salads to make them taste nicer, so you could eat more salads, so you could be in more in a calorie deficit. So little things like that, and the people would believe anything. And at the time, I believed it as well, because I was just starting training in the gym when I was 13. So he had a six pack. I agree with it. So
Yeah, completely. And consuming content online, and for some reason, I still take it at face value, and then I have to listen to it and go, hang on a minute, I have to critically think about this. And is this actually true? Just like the content we would have consumed when we were younger on YouTube and different things like that. I suppose people are addicted to seeming like they know what they're talking about or being successful. And do you think that, I suppose essentially, from your own experience in the fitness industry, do you think people are addicted to this seeming knowledgeable, successful, with no real substance behind it, rather than trying to build something real?
absolutely. It's becoming kind of laughable now at the minute. People are going to different places just so they can say they're in a certain place. Or again, I was guilty of it when I first started kind of the whole business world. I saw people doing a certain thing, and I wanted to be doing the same thing. And then I learned the hard way that that's not going to take you anywhere. You need to build something real, unless you start scamming people, and that's no good to anybody. And you'll get your karma for that eventually. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, addicted to looking successful, and at the detriment of your own, whether it be mental health or whether it be financial health, whatever it might be. It's all just to look good on an Instagram post, or to impress somebody, or to fulfill a need or a want that wasn't met before, you know. And I'm all for going somewhere that can give you more opportunities and help you learn more. But if you're just going there to seem like you're doing better than somebody, or trying to put on a certain persona that you're not, or just to fill a void, I think that's becoming a little bit of a problem in the business, or even in the fitness space. You know,
Yeah.
people feel like you're only credible if you are shredded on a beach somewhere. You know, or if in the business space, all the mentorships and the coaches and stuff, you're only credible if you're in Dubai with a supercar. And that might not be why someone wants to build a business.
Completely. I think all this postulating online just comes from just all stems from insecurities, deep-rooted insecurities. Because if you weren't so insecure about either your intelligence or your quality of your business, you wouldn't need to be faking it and showing, oh, look how great I am. I'm over in Dubai with a rented supercar beside me. Like,
Yeah. And again, just to preface, I'm all for that. I'm all for that in terms of going out there and experiencing and doing the cool shit. 100%, absolutely. But once it's not your whole stick, that's the because I plan to go to Dubai this year and fucking doing all that. But you know, that's because I want to experience and see what Dubai is like. And fucking who doesn't want to fucking drive a supercar and do all that crap?
Right.
100%. But once there's substance behind that, and you're actually doing something real and authentic, and trying to have a real impact to the world, or to other people, or some sort of provide some sort of value to the wider world, by all means, go do it. 100%. Love that.
If you can achieve these things while causing a positive impact in the world and to the people around you, absolutely go for it. But if the only impact
after it.
Yeah, absolutely. But if the only impact that like posting the picture of you and the car does is to kind of boost your ego a little bit, you're on track to just be like a loss the whole time. One of these things that I kind of want to dive into a little bit is your community is doing very well. You're building up. As I said, you want to go to Dubai this year, maybe sit in a supercar. Let's see how it goes. But what has been kind of before all you got to this point? What I suppose have been kind of some of the lower moments in building the project?
The lower moments would be, it gets quite lonely, and again, you'd be like, oh, but you're building a community. It's different. It's in, I'm building the community for people. Do you know what I mean? And then you're obviously trying to find your own community to match that. You know, so when you're in the world trying to build a business, and maybe everyone else around you might be working jobs, it can get a little bit lonely, in the sense of, oh, I have a free slot at 2 o'clock. Do you want to grab a coffee? Oh no, I can't. I'm not around. And you're just like, all right, okay. So that's one part of it. But I suppose the lessons that come with building the business is you can learn some very hard lessons along the way. You're dealing with a lot of, will this work out? What am I doing? Am I making the right decision? Obviously, it comes with financial struggles. You don't know when you're going to get paid next. Then you're learning lessons like the tax man's coming after. There's their lessons no one teaches you, and you learn those very much the hard way. I've learned that very recently, that no one teaches you those lessons. So definitely being comfortable in your own company, feeling a little bit misunderstood in the way of you have a vision of how you want to do it, and you're trying to explain that vision to people who might not get it right now. Yeah, feeling that little bit kind of on your own, that little bit, and then the hard lessons that no one kind of prepares you for are the two that definitely stick out for the low periods. There's a lot more highs than there is lows, but there definitely is. There's lows. And again, when you're trying to present yourself online and you're trying to document everything you're doing, there is that bit of the small town mentality that you're trying to break out of. You're hesitant to put something out there out of fear of either judgment, or again, you're in a world now where you can't say anything wrong now. So there's that side of things, and especially with the type of audience that I'm kind of in front of now, people can misconstrue things a lot. You try not to come across as too controversial, and then there's times where you're like, oh well, fuck it, I have to kind of be a bit controversial now.
Be true to yourself,
So you're constantly overthinking, and then it becomes overwhelming, and you're in your head a lot. To answer that question, you're in your head so much. That's the final answer there. You're in your head, you're overwhelmed, your brain's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and that leads to a little bit of spiral every now and then.
I hear you. Every word come out of your mouth there. I'm like, yeah. Check that box. Check that box.
Tick.
Yeah. The lonely life of the entrepreneur. Like I know when I first started out in this journey, I actually met a guy in the sauna and power, had his own business, and he said, the first few years of doing this is going to be the loneliest years of your life. I said,
yeah.
What do you mean? Like, I was kind of thinking like, sure, I'll still have all my mates. Now I have autonomy over my time. I can, maybe meet my mates whenever I want. Suddenly you realize you're working way more than you ever worked before. You're making less money than you were making previously. And you see why the loneliness comes in, and you're like, what am I doing with myself here?
Then all of a sudden your friends invite you out, and you're like, actually, I can't afford to go out and I have a tax bill to pay.
The accountant needs to be paid. I have products to buy. It's like, no, I can't do it, boys. I'm sorry. It is a lonely journey, but I have to say it's a fantastic journey in the sense that you really, as you said, you have to sit with yourself a lot and see who am I, rather than the surface level that maybe we start off with in life. You really have to kind of go that little bit further in and see, what am I made of, and how am I going to make this work? So it's fantastic insight on what it is to truly be an entrepreneur and building something. For someone who's probably sitting at home now, and as you said, there could be a lot of younger people out there, maybe in rural places, who are thinking, I don't know where to start, I don't know where to go. What would be something you would say to them?
Before starting any endeavor, I'd ask, why are you doing it? Because like what we talked about earlier, are you doing it just to show others that you're more successful than them, or actually are you doing it from a place of, I want to do this thing because I want to have a bigger impact, or it's come from a place of adversity of, this thing happened to me, this is my either hero or villain arc. The Chris Williamson quote of, the world hurt me, I'm either going to hurt it back, or the world hurt me, I'm going to make sure no one else gets hurt by it. You're trying to figure out what's your why and why you're doing anything. If you want to pursue a career in sport, why do you want to pursue that career? If you want to start a business, why do you want to start that business? What problem are you trying to solve? And then figuring out why you as a person want to do it. What happened to you back in school that's causing you to do this? Because it always comes from a place, no matter how far you strip it back, it always comes back to the person you were as a child, or if something happened to you growing up. Understanding why you're making that decision to do something now, figuring out where that decision came from back in the day, connect those two dots, and then decide, is this the right move for me to do it, or is it not? Because it could, if it's coming from a place like that villain act, the world hurt me, so I'm going to hurt everybody. Having that little pause to make that decision and say, no, that's not the right thing to do, could save you a lifetime of absolute misery. So answer it in plain English would be to figure yourself out on why you're starting anything, and then try it, see what happens. Just have the open-mindedness to try it, figure out why you want to try it, and if it's the right move, listen to your gut and go after it.
That last passage there is an absolute mic drop moment. I'm going to have to listen back to that straight away once I get off it. That was absolutely fantastic. I know from my own experience, that's why I started all of this, really and truly. I kind of thought back, what change do I want to be in the world? How do I turn my pain into a purpose from what I experienced as a child? And that's who I always think of when I think, why am I building this? And all the days where I think, what the fuck am I actually doing? This is going nowhere. I think of the guidance and the person I needed to find to look up to when I was in that dark period in my life. So it's fantastic advice is to kind of figure out what your why is. And then even in another sense, you will figure out who you are along the journey because you will change. The boy you were when you start. Yeah, completely. We all go through the different phases of kind of understanding and the different roadblocks that will come up and show us who we really are along the journey. And I suppose being prepared for that, being prepared that it's not going to be smooth sailing. And one thing that always comes up, I'm always watching these videos, burn the boats. And if you really are, if it really is truly your purpose and something that you fully align with, you would be willing to burn the boats. And that's just one I have plastered up on the wall and like, burn the boats.
Burn those boats and carry them up that hill. Yeah, like I put up that video on Instagram the other day and in the last podcast of like the what a success story. And I feel like if I was to ever go back to a school and talk to students around like that, I'd tell that story because you all want to be successful. Everyone wants to start something to be considered a success, and understanding what that success is huge. What does success actually look like to you, and why does that version of success look different to the person beside you's version of success? And once you've made that decision, understand that there's a huge mountain there. There's a massive mountain that you're going to have to climb. There's going to be fucking battles that you're going to have to fight. You're going to fall back down that mountain. You're going to encounter people that you're going to have to trust, or be thrown back down the mountain by that same people who you thought you could trust. Once you can decide, yeah, I'm ready for that, I'm willing to climb that hill, no problem. My reason for climbing this mountain is stronger than the battles I'm going to have to face going up there. If you can make that decision and you're content with potentially not getting to the top of that, go get it.
Yeah, it's not the destination, it's the journey, absolutely. And what the journey can make. Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic advice for people. We have flown through this and you've been absolutely full of mic drop moments. I have to give you credit, you're a fantastic speaker. Is there anything you'd like to dive into?
I'd love to chat, if you don't mind, about your journey and my mission are quite similar. And I'd love to talk about the level of resilience, the lessons you've learned in overcoming what you've had to overcome to get into where you're at now, to show other people that, because you've overcome a lot of adversity to get to where you're at now, and to show people that your environment, your circumstance isn't what's holding you back from achieving what you want to achieve. So I'd love to dive into that if you can. I'm going to flip this podcast back on you now.
Ouch, wasn't expecting this. No, I'm not prepared.
Yeah. So
no script.
Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I suppose I'm going to have to get you to ask me the questions again anyway, because I was trying to think there. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say? But I suppose the biggest change for me was changing my mind about everything. I always thought that everything I had experienced was, woe is me, I can't believe I'm going through this, I have to keep it a secret. No one else has all the shit I have to deal with, this is so hard. And I lived in that state for a long time, and that was probably it was the driver of so many poor habits. When I was about 16, I went down a bad path of drugs, drink and rock and roll because I didn't see any out, and I became consumed by all the problems in my life that this angry teenage boy, like I know when we're all teenagers, we have this teenage angst that we have to go through. You throw a chronic illness on top of that, fuel to the fire, it explodes. And for me, I refused help. And that's one thing that I would probably jump on straight away and say is not to refuse help. As a man, we all get a little bit, I know we get our backs up like, I can do it myself, I'm strong in the mind, I'm strong in the body. But having the power in yourself to admit that you're vulnerable and show your vulnerability to people, I would have avoided a lot of self-inflicted trauma through my teenage years, which not even to do with the Crohn's or anything like that, and the people that I would have hurt along the way, like my family, if I had just accepted their help. So having the wherewithal to say, I'm actually not okay, rather than putting a wall up. And maybe I used anger as fuel to get me through everything. And that was probably the most detrimental thing I ever did, because anger burns like fire and can get you through something. But the quicker something burns, the quicker it goes out. And that was me. And it got to the point then where there was nothing left in me. My health deteriorated, my mind deteriorated. I was very lucky that I had a good group of friends to pull me back from the brink. Sat me down a few times and were like, if you don't cop the fuck on here, you're going to end up in jail. And I was very close to all that sort of stuff. But I suppose where I want to go with that and say is this: rather than taking the world on and being brutal to yourself and brutal to those around you, is just taking the moment to step back and say, I'm going to allow people to try and help me, whether that's talk therapy or whether that's just opening up to someone close to you that you feel comfortable with. And in the sense of that too is open up to people around you. You sometimes feel like, I can't say what I need to say, because maybe they are possibly someone who's driving a bit of the problems that are going on with you. So you can't feel you can be truly open. You don't want to burden them with what is going on in your mind. But finding someone who's completely detached from your situation, whether that's, therapist, someone that you pay to go to. And in one sense, I hate the old transactional sense of, going to a therapist, because you're thinking they're only trying to help me because they want my money. But you need help. This is the way the world we live in kind of exists. Like, the first few sessions could be shit, and they probably will be. They will be probably the most horrible things you'll ever do. And you say, what the fuck am I doing? This is bullshit. They're not even listening to me, or I'm not getting anything from this. Perseverance through the struggle is probably the best thing I can say, is that even going to the gym, the first few bicep curls you do are going to be shite. You're not going to be lifting any good weights. But if you keep going, eventually.
Man.
Yeah. Fuzzy.
No, sorry. Continue. Perseverance.
No, absolutely. I think it's just perseverance and being vulnerable and willing to accept help. Now, I don't know if I went off on a tangent there or answered your question.
But no, that was perfect, because that went perfectly, because there's two avenues you can go off the back of that, and the one where those two avenues shoot off on is from that victim mentality that you talked about at the very, very start. So you can go in the way of, like, if something really bad is going wrong in your life and like you need the help that you're talking about there, whether that be through therapy, whether that be through medical intervention, the victim mentality, the woe is me mentality is what's going to stop you from getting the help you need. And then there's the other way of just getting your fucking act together in any general sense. For example, if you're living in a small town, or if you're using all the fucking external factors to point the finger at as to why you can't succeed. I can't succeed because I can't get in shape because I live 10 minutes or 20 minutes away from the gym. I can't build a business because I don't have the resources or the money to invest in a coach, or like, there's so many free resources there. But it's the change in the mindset of no, I can figure it out. I just have to figure out how. There's no such thing as I can't do it. I just have to figure out how to do it. And that can go in any direction, whether that be medical, whether that be through mental health, whether that be through just figuring out what you want to do. As soon as you completely put all responsibility on yourself, that you are the only person that can actually make this work, you're the only person that can succeed, and you're the only person that can fuck it up, that's such a freeing thing. And I feel like what you touched on there is a perfect example of saying there's going to be people who are going to tell me that I need to cop the fuck on. I have the choice of either accepting that and realizing to myself, yeah, I actually need to change here, or you can push them away and you can say, no, everything else it's everyone else's fault. Nothing's going to help me, or I can help myself. Leave me alone. And that's where a lot of problems stem from. So I feel like that's a really good place to spring off on in another direction if you want it, or if you have any other topics that you want to touch on.
Yeah,
the way.
no, absolutely. Because that woe is me mentality is something that I didn't even realize I had. I was living in it, didn't realize I was feeling sorry for myself, didn't realize that my actions were because I was feeling sorry for myself. I just felt that this is who I was because of what was happening to me. Had no self-awareness. And you can only gain self-awareness, I think, by actually opening your mouth and getting the words out, or even putting it down on paper. Now, it's journaling. If someone told me to journal when I was 16, I would have said, oh, I'm going to write in my diary like a little girl. As I've gotten older,
yeah,
I see the power in writing it out in front of you.
Huge.
Massive. And the thing I would say is, and there goes back to the kind of the foundations for what I'm trying to build here, is if you can look up to someone, if you want to find someone, if you're in a state where you're lost and you don't know what's going on, find yourself a mentor. And that person who's your mentor might not even know that they're your mentor. Someone online that you say, do you know what? That's my higher self, and that's who I want to become because I see them doing it. And if you can find someone to look up to and someone that you strive to be like, I think it can definitely pull you out of a hole and definitely pull you out of that woe with me mentality, because you see someone had the ability to get there. And if they had the ability to get there, there's nothing stopping you from doing it.
100%. Absolutely 100%. Like I see you now as someone who a lot of people can look up to. Like I'm huge on youth mental health now. I feel like there's a big problem there. And what you're doing and like everything that you've overcome, and like what I'm trying to build as well, what I'm trying to show that what I'm trying to show people that is possible for both parents and children. It's such a great example of you literally had something that could have taken your whole life away from you, and you had to make a decision, and you could have pushed every ounce of help away from you, but you ultimately had to make the decision to better yourself to get to where you're at now. And if you can teach that lesson, or if you get that lesson across to somebody in any stage of life, it can have such a big impact. To ask a question on that, when you were at your lowest, was there any one thought or one action that really gave you that kind of launch pad or that springboard for the rest of your life to where you're at now?
It kind of comes back to what you said earlier about your why. I really had to think, why do I want to be healthier? Or why do I just not want to just accept that this is going to be my life? Like, why do I want to strive for more? And you can get so deep into the depths of feeling sorry for yourself. And sometimes you don't want to do it for yourself because you don't have enough respect for yourself in one sense, or self-worth. And my why to pull myself back was my mum, because I'm going to get fucking emotional talking about this.
Let's do it. Let's go into the trenches.
This is the
here.
vulnerability.
Let's go.
I'll tell you one story, and it stems back from when I was 19 and I had accepted I was going to die. I literally went down such a bad path. Medication wasn't working. There was blood falling from my rectum, to be grotesque about it, but that was the existence I was in. And it got to the point where everyone knew that I was coming to the end of days at home because I was getting sicker and sicker and skinnier, and I was refusing help because previously all the medication they'd thrown at me wasn't working. There was no outs. Out was surgery and an ostomy bag. And I had point blank refused the first time they told me I'd have an ostomy bag, because my initial first thoughts were, what girl's ever going to want me? I will be different to all my friends. I'll be weaker. I'll be less than. And this was me having no proof that that was true. This was all concocted in my mind. So I'd refused the ostomy, and I had said I would rather be dead than have an ostomy bag. And that's the route I then decided I was going to go to. And in my own head, for some reason, I thought I'll make it to 26. But when I poisoned my body the way that I did through my teenage years, I sped that process up quite a lot. And one night I was sitting at home and I was essentially on death's door, sitting on a toilet seat. And my mum came in to me and was like, please, we have to bring you to the hospital. We have to bring you to the hospital. And I just told her, close the fucking door. As in, just leave me here now and come back now when I am no more. That's what I had accepted. And I'll never, ever, as long as I live, forget the look in my mother's eyes. I saw my mother's eyes break, her heart break in behind her eyes. And when I think back to that moment, it did. Now, when I had my surgery and a whole new lease on life and all this sort of stuff, I kind of didn't really remember that moment. I hadn't found my why. I wouldn't say I'd forgotten about it. But as my health then deteriorated again the second time, I thought, you learned nothing from the first time. You still identified as this angry boy who drank all the time and didn't look after his health, because I hadn't done the work then to figure out who I was. I'd still kept identifying post the first surgery, as this person, even though there was kind of a fight going on. You know, I knew I wasn't that person anymore because I felt I'd become that person because I was sick, and now suddenly I was healthy, but I'm still engaged in all these bad activities. So for me, I hadn't gone into the self at that stage. And then my health failed again, and that moment came back into my head, and I thought, fuck. Like, am I going to do this to my mother all over again? And then that became my why. Now, unfortunately, Crohn's is a beast that, you know, you could do all the work that you need to do. But it took me a while to transition from that person who identified as the drinker, the smoker, the partier, all these negative habits that weren't actually beneficial to me, really and truly. This person I thought I was rather than the person I am. And that kind of switch flipped a little bit for me around 26. Probably went through the worst stage of depression I've ever had in my life. Mental health was in the bin. Few moments where I thought I'm out, and it was only my mum and my family really that kept me going through that. And as the years then progressed, and with COVID and different things like that, I did a lot of diving into the self, and I was working really hard to change this identity that I'd so built up, and this identity that I'd gained from the age of 16 had still sticking with me at the age of 26, and I could not shake it because I always felt that was the value and strength I had, was in this person that I had, developed, this identity, this mask that I had put on. But over the years now, as I have changed my whole life around and my behaviors and the things that I do and the things that I actually want, the effect that I want to leave on the planet when eventually my time comes is not the lad who went out and had great fun, had all these parties and everyone think, oh, he's great cracking a night out. I want to be someone who can help the boy I was when I was 16, who it took 10 years to shake the identity off. I want to make sure that someone at the age of 16 goes through what I went through, that they can look up and see, oh, I'm feeling everything he felt, but look at what he's doing now. So I can safely be completely open about my ostomy, but no one's going to go, oh, I'd love one of those. You know, it's not something that you do. So if a young guy was ever in my position to say that I'd rather be dead than get an ostomy bag, I want the way I live my life to be proof that statement is stupid. You know, that's the impact that I want to have. But circle back to your question, I kind of went off on a tangent there, is finding your why. Yeah, find your why to make a change. And every time I get weak, every time I think, oh, I'm just going to go on the piss with the boys, or I'm going to buy a box of smokes, I'm off to Ibiza, I still do some of those things, but not every weekend, not to the point where it actually impacts my health. And I suppose it's finding that balance as well. But when the dark days come and you're thinking, oh, things aren't going well, that's the why I always come back to. It's like, what impact do I want to have on the woman who did everything to pull me back from the brink? So yeah, that's my answer to that question, the why.
Boom. That's your mic drop today, and that was sensational, because it proved my point of your story and my mission are so similar. Like, going back to that story, it all started from a perceived identity that you didn't want to associate with. You didn't want to be associated with the guy with the bag. You didn't want the thing that could possibly save your life because of fear of what other people thought or what a certain group of people would think, or you were only thinking of the drawbacks, the short-term drawbacks that it would cause. And you had an identity of this other person. So yeah, essentially it's that victim mentality, that small town mentality that I'm trying to break. And then it was a case of, if I stay exactly where I am, it's literally, I'm out the door here. And I think that's something that so many people are going through. It might not be as high stakes as life and death, but it could be a case of living a life of absolute misery, depression, and not wanting to be, not actually seeing what you're capable of, or pulling yourself out of a hole that you might be in, just because you don't want to short term look like you're unfit, or you're cringy, or you're whatever it is to other people who doesn't matter, who might not even exist. It's breaking that cycle of those limiting beliefs that if I just take this little bit of embarrassment or perceived embarrassment, or if I just take this hit of discomfort for a little bit, it could completely change my life. That's the message I want to give through my community of, you're going to come to these classes. It's going to be shit at the start. You might look very unfit in front of the people in your community, but you could be in a position right now that if you don't make this change now, it could get to a point where, as drastic as you could be at a serious obesity level, that could have a serious effect on your health, and like that could be a really bad situation down the line. Or it could just be a case that you're going through the rest of your life not liking what you see in the mirror, having zero confidence, not wanting to show yourself in photos, or not wanting to go on the sun holidays and live in the experiences, or you're not being able to play with your kids just because you don't want to deal with that short-term embarrassment. Showing people at any age, whether it be like that, someone who wants to come to the classes, or someone who's in school who wants to make more of themselves but doesn't want to post on social media, who doesn't want to give themselves that little bit of embarrassment or risk looking a bit stupid just because they're afraid, or they don't want to be associated with a certain identity. And that's a decision that could change your life.
Completely.
And what you explained there is so motivational to anybody who's listening, because it might be a life or death situation. It might be the toss of a coin between staying miserable for the rest of your life or living a life of absolute joy. And that's the message that I'm trying to push. And it's the message that you're living right now. And it's amazing to see the progress that you're making, and the impact you're having with the Runs Club, the Survival Project, and with everything that you're doing now. It's really admirable, and I hope that I can have the same impact through my community, through a different vehicle, a much less painful vehicle.
100%. And I just want to touch on there, you said about it, like maybe not being life or death, but I think it all is life or death essentially, because if you're only being a pale version of the person you could be, what life are you living? Do you know? That's the death of the life you should be living. You should do everything, even though it might be painful in the moment and embarrassing and cringy, but everything that you actually want to be and achieve is on the other side of that pain. And it's a fantastic message to get across, and building in the community and everything like that, is that the first time you try anything's going to be hard. Like, we all look stupid no matter what we do. And I think as you get older, we're obviously much more afraid of looking stupid because we're supposed to have it all together. I remember the first class I did in Power, when I went in, I couldn't work the treadmill. I was like, I'm never coming back to one of these fucking things again. And now I literally, every single class that I go into, I love it and I enjoy it so much. So you have to get past that initial stage of embarrassment, or the pain, or the fear of failure, or the fear of being judged. So yeah, no, it's a fantastic message to get across today. Thank you for flipping the whole narrative on my podcast on me.
Yeah. Look, it's what I do. I like to challenge people's belief systems. Yeah. And the last thing to touch on again, one thing I left out on that point before we wrap it all up is the why, and doing it for your mother. And that's something that's huge for me as well, and for my parents, and for anyone who's listening who wants to be that successful, is doing it for the people who want you to become successful, or who want you to have that best life. And that's the why. That's my why. That's your why. My parents have done everything for me. My parents are my biggest superheroes, and that's why I'm trying to give back on that side of things as well. And if they are listening, they are my superheroes, and I love them to pieces. And that's why I'm trying to do everything that I can to try and give back to everything that they've given me. If anyone struggles to find the why, is doing it for the people who've given them everything. That's to wrap everything up. I think that's one thing. If you're struggling to figure out what it is that you're doing it for, is do it for those people, whether it be a parent, a brother, whoever it might be, is to do it for them.
Yeah, 110%. And it's great to have the backing and the knowledge of knowing you have the backing of fantastic people behind it. To be able to say your parents are your superheroes, they must be amazing people. And they've raised an amazing man. So, you know, I'm just... Jack, it has been an absolute fantastic conversation today. I really appreciate everything.
Thank you so much for having me on. It flew by. I don't know where that hour went. That was
Yeah.
that was crazy. I don't know where that hour went. That was
it was brilliant.
No, thanks so much for having me on, Johnny. And hopefully I can return the favour and have you on the Small Town Mentality podcast, and we can dive deeper into it. We'll try and bring you to tears that bit more.
Yeah.
But no.
Won't be hard. You nearly had me. No,
So
Jack,
close.
no, thank you so much. And absolutely, I'll be my pleasure to go on. So sweet.
Amazing. Rest of your week, Johnny. Thanks so much for having me on.
I want to say a massive thank you to Jack for coming on and sharing so openly. This episode was really a reminder that fitness is rarely actually just about fitness. It's about community, confidence, your identity, and actually finding a reason to keep going when things get hard. If you enjoyed this conversation and helped you, I'd love if you could share it with someone who you think might need it. And if you're enjoying the podcast as a whole, make sure to follow, subscribe, and please drop us a rating. It really helps us grow. You can follow the links to follow Jack's journey and the Small Town Project linked in the description. As always, thank you so much for being here and listening. I'll see you in the next episode.